Welcome once again to my kitchen here at Trails N62. I've been pretty busy. I'm going to be doing some canning today, some different things. I'm going to make a separate video for the two of the things that I haven't done yet. But I've done all my prep yesterday, put it in the refrigerator overnight. So this morning I finished up my prep on everything, on hamburger and base mix and all that kind of good stuff. So I'll show you what I've got here. I'm going to be doing a chicken pot pie base, and I'll explain that more as I get into it. And I'm going to be doing a bean with bacon soup, which is probably one of my most favorite soups growing up. Maybe because we didn't buy it very often. It was kind of expensive, and we didn't get a whole lot of it. So there's 4 of us kids, so we kind of had to divide it up. But I'm going to be doing bean and bacon soup, and then I'm going to be doing another batch of pork and beans. I'm about out of pork and beans, so I'm going to be doing that. And in addition to that, I'm going to be doing another batch of burritos in a jar. Now, I've already done videos on the pork and beans and burritos in a jar, but I'm going to be doing a full canner. So I'm using my double canner. So I'll be doing 2 layers. I should be able to get, I usually get about 10 pints per layer, so I should be able to get 20 pints. So I'm going to be doing about 5 pints of each one. Let me show you what I did yesterday and this morning getting prepared to do this. I may have bitten off more than I can chew. Alright, let me show you what I got here. Alright, so yesterday I chopped up my carrots that I'm going to need. Now these are already canned carrots. I canned carrots a couple years ago. I don't particularly like cooked carrots. My wife liked them, so I canned them for her, but now there's just me, so I'm going to be using these because I'm not particularly fond of cooked carrots, but since these are already canned, so they're pre-cooked kind of, they'll be in what I make, and it'll give that flavor. Peas, now these are frozen peas, so I thawed them out in the refrigerator, and so they're frozen peas that I'll be using. And then celery, I got some celery, and I chopped up celery. This is portioned out to what I'm going to be using today. I also did some extra celery here because it was a full stock. I chopped that up, and what I'll be doing this is putting this on a cookie sheet and parchment paper and sticking it in the freezer and freezing it, and then bagging it up for later use when I want to do some more of this. And then I also, yesterday I chopped up onions. Now these onions here have been blanched. These are the ones I'm going to use right here. And these are the extra onions that I did here, because it was just a whole bag of onions. I think there was 6 or 7 medium-sized onions in there. 1 medium-sized onion will do about a cup of chopped onions. So I'm going to dehydrate these because I'm running low on dehydrated onions for when I do my cooking. I also did chicken. Yesterday I had 2 huge chicken breasts that I cut up. I think I'll just divide these up into 5 pints that I'll do. I seasoned them yesterday with some rosemary, sage, garlic powder, and onion powder, and they've been marinating in that. And then I cut up some potatoes. These are Yukon Gold potatoes. I've got them in a lemon water here. I put them in the refrigerator overnight, and that's for my chicken pot pie, and they're portioned out however much will be per jar. Here I've got 5 of them in hot water. I keep my jars, I wash them in the dishwasher so they're clean. I put the rings on them, and then I put them in a sealed container so they're kept sealed. And in my tools here, my rings there's my double canner. I've got it ready. Now normally you put 3 quarts of water in your canner. Since this is going to be going for so long and it's such a big canner, I put 4 quarts in here. The main thing is not to run out of water and not to let the water come up onto the jars. So if it comes up too high, I'll take some out. Stock I've got here to fill my jars. It's heated, ready to go. And this is my water I've got heated. I'm going to put my lids in here. It just boiled, and I just shut it off. You don't boil your lids. I put mine in hot water. They say the new lids, you don't have to. It's up to you. I do it anyway. It's no big deal. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing the chicken pot pie. So I'll do the chicken pot pie first, And we'll do that. And then I'm going to be doing the bean and bacon soup. And then I'll do the other two things that I've already done before. So let's start with the chicken pot pies. So for the chicken pot pie, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the chicken. And I'm going to start with, because I just got it, just the recipe just called for it just said 2 chicken breasts cut up for 3 pints is what the recipe called for, but since these were huge chicken breasts, I think these 2 will do my 5 pints. But I'm going to start with half a cup of the chicken breast. Now these are raw chicken, they're not cooked, because they will generate some of their own juices. So I'm going to put a half a cup in each one. Right, I've got half a cup in there. Now I'm going to put another 1/8 of a cup. Basically what you do with your chicken breast, you just divide it up evenly among the 5 pints. Next, the celery. So the recipe, they just divided it up equally among the pints. So I'm going to start with the 2 stalks of celery. Will make about a cup of celery. So I'm going to start with maybe a heaping tablespoon per pint. Then I will just kind of level it off to about a level tablespoon per pint. And divide it up evenly among it. The next thing I'm going to do is the small potatoes. It says 1 small potato per pint. So I got some small Yukon Gold potatoes. And I diced them up. And some of them were pretty small, so I kind of added a little extra to some of them. I think I did about 7 of those to divide up between the 5 pints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain them from the lemon juice water and put 1 of these per pint. Then I'm going to kind of shake these down because we want to leave 1 inch of head space when we finally fill them up. Because we don't want them siphoning. Next, I'm going to put in a heaping tablespoon of carrots. Now generally with this kind of thing I say a heaping tablespoon because it's hard to measure in exactly a tablespoon because you can't get stuff that's been diced up like this level. And then I'm going to put in a heaping tablespoons of sweet peas. Again, it's hard to get a level, that's why it says heaping. So you're not really worried about it, you're just putting in your sweet peas. When I measured this out, I did a generous heaping. I'm going to call that good. Then we're going to fill these up, leaving 1-inch head space. And again, on canning jars, you can measure it if you want, or here's the 1 inch from the top to this lip right here. So I'm going to put it in right up at that lip. Now this is hot chicken bouillon. Now generally when I put my funnel in there, the bottom of the funnel reaches the bottom of that, so that's usually my 1 inch measure when I'm putting this in. Now this chicken stock is made from chicken base, so it's been cooked. So I stir it up. If you use bouillon cubes, same thing, stir it up. I have hot water in my canner. It's not heating, it's just hot water from the tap. And I will wipe my rims with vinegar and then add some vinegar to my water. The vinegar cuts the grease on the rims from the meat and beans and things, and then the vinegar in the water will keep it from getting hard water deposits. Now once those are filled up, I take my debubbler. I just have a clear, it's a debubbler. You can use chopsticks or whatever else. And I debubble it because you don't want air bubbles in there. It hinders the processing. Now when you make this stock like this, I don't put any cream of chicken soup in it. There are people who do, I know. I don't put any cream of chicken soup in it. I'll just heat that up with it when I add it to it when I eat it. Alright, so some of these are a little shy here. I'm going to put a little more liquid in them. Just a touch. Alright. So I don't want too much liquid in them, it'll cause them to siphon. So I get a paper towel and I just put it in the vinegar. And I'll wipe these lids off because you don't want anything on your lids, on the rims of your lids here, because it will prevent your lids from sealing if there's anything on there. Another reason you don't want it to siphon, because that can bring stuff up underneath the lid and prevent the seal. And I am using off-brand lids. It's been hard to find the good lids this year. I don't know why, unless more people are canning, or maybe they just wanted to create a shortage. Alright, now I'm going to put this little dab of vinegar in my pressure cooker. Take my little lid getter, and like I say, these are off-brand lids, so I boil the water and then I put them in. That helps soften them. The new ball lids and canning lids, they say you don't have to do this. So, you know, if you've got new ones, you don't want to do it, that's up to you. Bottom line is, on all of this, I do this for me. You have to be your own quality control. If you don't feel safe, don't do it. Now finger tighten these. Don't want them too tight, but on the other hand, don't want them too loose. So I just finger tighten them, and again, some people's fingers are stronger than others. Now once these are ready to go, I'm going to put them in my canner here. Notice I have a rack in the bottom of it. Always put a rack in your canner. Don't leave it sitting on the bottom. You have to have some space between the heat coming up or it'll crack your jars. Alright, 5 pints of chicken pot pie. And next I'm going to be doing 5 pints of bean and bacon soup to put in here. And there we have our 5 pints of chicken pot pie. Now I'll put these in here in the double canner, and I'll show you that when I get it all in there in the end. And I will process these they all process the same amount of time. Anytime you mix meat with something, anytime you mix anything together to pressure can, you always pressure can it at the longest time for whatever ingredient is in there. In this case it's meat, and that's 75 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts. Beans are the same thing, 75 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts. So we'll get our bean and bacon soup done, but that's chicken pot pie. Now like I said, when these are done and I add to them, I will take cream of chicken soup and I will drain one of these. If it's got any liquid left in it, I'll drain it. Mix my cream of chicken soup in with it, mix it up, heat it up, taste it, see if I need to put any salt in it. I'll put the cream of chicken soup in. I'll put as much as I think is good, and then I will put it in a bowl and probably bake a biscuit and put a biscuit on top of it. That's the way I do them. You can make a pot pie, put it in it, bake it in the oven. We'll talk more about that later. There we have our full canner. I've got 20 pints in there. I've got 5 pints of chicken pot pie, 5 pints of bean and bacon soup, 5 pints of burritos in a jar, and 5 pints of pork and beans. These are all processed for the same amount of time. I'll let them vent for 10 minutes. After the steam starts out, then I'll put the weight on, and when it starts jiggling, I'll process them for 75 minutes. And always when you process, let it cool naturally. Don't try to hurry the letting off the steam. Let it cool naturally. Don't let the pressure off. Don't pull up your weight. Just let it do it naturally. You'll have less problems that way. A lot of people don't like to put that many pints in their canner. I understand. Don't complain and say, well, you've got to have this, you got to have that. It works for me. You do what works for you, because that's what it's all about. There's a lot of things that may or may not be sanctioned by the USDA and the University Extension Centers and all these experts. You do what's good for you. If you don't feel good about it, don't do it. Do it a little different. If you only want to do 8 pints to a level or 9 pints to a level, that's up to you. Whatever your canner will do and whatever you feel comfortable with, that's what you need to do. So I'm not telling you this is the way it's done. I'm telling you this is the way that I do it. Happy canning. Hope you have a wonderful day. I've got to clean up this big old mess I've made in the kitchen here. I almost bit off more than I could chew. And I still have to dehydrate onions later on. I might do a little video on that because I haven't done one on that yet. And I'm going to freeze some celery in the freezer for use for next time. And we're all done, finally. And I got my mess cleaned up in the kitchen. So here we have our 5 jars of pints of bean and bacon soup, 5 pints of burrito in a jar, 5 pints of chicken pot pie, and 5 pints of pork and beans. It looks like one of my pork and beans, or maybe a burrito in a jar, might have siphoned out a little bit, so I may have 1 or 2 that didn't seal. We'll see after I let them set for a while and see what happens. Because I had some stuff in the canner on the top. Nothing looked like it came out of the bottom, just dripped down from the top. So here we are. So they haven't been cleaned up yet, but there's a pork and beans right here. There's a burrito in a jar right here. Here's my bean and bacon soup right here. And then my chicken pot pie here. Now, like I said, with the chicken pot pie, what I'll do is I will add some cream of chicken soup and test it out and see, and a biscuit. I'll either bake it in the oven at 450 degrees for 15 minutes with the biscuit on top, or I'll make my biscuit, put this in a pan, heat it up, cook it for a little bit, and then put it in a bowl and stick the biscuit on top of it, which is probably how I'll do it. And there you have it. 5 pints of chicken pot pie base. Okay, a little insert here on the chicken pot pie. I had one. It was good. Worked out. I thought I'd over-seasoned it, the chicken, but I didn't. It tasted really good to me. You have to be careful with seasoning before you can, because what they'll tell you is the seasoning will intensify in the pressure canning process. Well, these, for me, it was seasoned just right. So, but I would recommend lightly seasoning your chicken, and with the seasoning, then you can season it afterwards if you want to while you're heating it up. So what I did was I took my chicken pot pie base and I added cream of chicken soup. 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Now, I didn't say in the recipe how much to add, so I started putting it in, mixing it up. It took the whole can to make the consistency that I liked. Didn't add any other liquid. I drained this out, put it on the stove top, heated it up, added, as I was adding the cream of chicken soup to the chicken pot pie mix, and it took a whole can. Turned out great. Mixed it up that way. I heated it up to boiling. I boiled it for 1 minute, and then what I did was I made some biscuits earlier. So I took 2 biscuits, halved the biscuits, and set them on top of the chicken pot pie filling, and ate it that way, and it worked out great for me. So that's how it worked out for me. That's the way I like it. That's the way I'm going to do it, because I can make the biscuits ahead of time and just pop them in the microwave, heat them up, and put them on top of the chicken pot pie. I make extra biscuits anyway when I make biscuits. Now, you can take canned biscuits, I guess, according to what's the recipe. I would roll it out and then lay it on top of the little whatever you're putting your chicken pot pie filling in. And again, I would recommend something smaller. Don't use a big old bowl to put it in. You don't want it just thinned out in there. You want it in a chicken pot pie container, a container that looks like it's going to be a chicken pot pie. And you can put a pastry in the bottom of it, and you can cover it with a pastry. You can use regular pie pastry and do that, which is a lot harder, so you won't find me doing it. But you can, and I have done that for chicken pot pie when I made it from scratch to make chicken pot pie. I've made a great big chicken pot pie like at Christmas time for a regular pie size, with a regular pie covering on top, regular pie on the bottom. But for these jars for 1 or 2 people, chicken pot pie, you can make a pie crust, put it on the bottom, and make a pie crust and put it on the top if you want to. You can make a, if you want to do it that way, that's up to you. For me, I just took 2 biscuits, halved them, put the halves down on top of it, of both the biscuits, and it was just the right amount of crust in it for me for the chicken pot pie, and it was delicious. That's the way I like it. So, but you can bake it in the oven with just a raw dough biscuit. I would say flatten it out, and lay it on the top of it so that it kind of covers the top if you want. And let's see, it says you bake it at 450 degrees for 15 minutes. All right? But I make mine on the stove top, and it worked out great. I loved it. So I made some more. So I made another 5 batch. That's what these here are. I made another 5 batch of chicken pot pie filling in my electric Nesco pressure canner. And it worked out great. So, that's it for the chicken pot pie. Happy canning. My kitchen to yours. From my house to your house. God bless.